Take his music and use it. Let it take you away and be hopeful, hopeful, and you'll make a way. I know it ain't easy, but that's okay, cause we hopeful. Yeah. Yes, so I just got finished watching Coach Carter, Jacques Cassell, and let me tell you something. This movie came out 20 years ago. Yes, we old, child. I'm like, oh my God. I'm scrolling through Tubi, and I'm like, well, look what we have here. Look what we have here. We have Coach Carter, and I was like repeating scenes, and there's so many good. Oh my God, this movie is more than a movie. It's like the trajectory for our culture. Like, this movie is so underrated. And I remember when it came out, nobody liked it. I liked it. I love Coach Carter. Like, I loved it 20 years ago, and I loved it now. And I forgot the plot, and I was like, well, let me familiarize myself. But yes, it's about a positive black man who had faith in young black men, and I wanted to talk about that because it's so important. And I wanted to talk to my teenagers today because I know I have I got my grown folk, but I wanted to talk to my kids today as this is graduation season and everything like that. But always believe in yourself. And as a former educator, and now I'm still a parent, I have a 16-year-old. My son is who he is because I believed in him. My son is who he is, and it's 1 week away from Father's Day because of the black man in his life, which is my father. And I just wanted to briefly show, I think y'all seen this before, but that is my graduation picture. And at the end of the day, the foundation I had was private school. I live in East New York. When I was growing up, I live in Brownsville now. And if it wasn't for a black man, I wouldn't be who I am today. Though I had female educators, but guess what? My bishop, or the archbishop, the person in charge of my elementary school, because that's where it starts, elementary school, but he was a man. The dean was a man. And we have a lot of women who strive and they thrive, but our boys need to strive and thrive too. And a lot of people say negative things about charter school, but at the end of the day, charter school graduates, they go to college. And I wanted to talk about that. Now, college is not for everybody. Of course, we have our exceptions that have been successful without it, but college is an option to get out of poverty. It's also an option to train your brain and to get it out from the gutter. It literally is a tool. Education is a tool, right? Now, for some people, sometimes it doesn't work out, depending on what major you choose. But ultimately, education is to free you, and I was properly educated, and, I turned out really good because I had a decent education. So even if you don't get college, but you just have high school, having a proper education is key. Education of self. You got people who think that Cleopatra is white. That comes from lack of self-education. That comes from not knowing who you are. And when you know who you are, the devil can't stop you. Nobody could stop you. And that's so important. He was more than a coach. He taught them how to be men. And the last part, I had to record it. So you had the first scene I posted, which y'all saw, I love that scene because, the Cruz, that's his last name, the Spanish boy, he's like, well, I'm supposed to be scared of you. And you have kids that will try you, but those children are scared. He nipped it in the bud and he's like, you're a scared young man. Like, you're trying to be tough guy. And so naturally, he kicked him off the team. And you show the scenes of he was in the street and stuff. And he was like, yo, I need to be back on the team. Because he loved basketball so much. And that's why I love it. Like, I'm not a sports person, but I love this movie so much because The coach was like, listen, y'all love basketball so much, love on your books, go to class. And in the state of California, they don't have regions. They don't have where if you don't pass a test, you can't graduate. So the fact that they only had a 50% graduation rate is crazy. And that's how it is for a lot of our inner city schools, hence why they don't get funding. So some people might say, oh, it's racism and this and that, but how can you really call it racism when the parents are not on board with their children's education? A lot of the parents are, they're not coming to PTAs. The teachers, you have the teachers complaining because my son's school, I get weekly progress reports, and I get the email every week, especially because they in high school, they're not going to tell you everything. I get weekly progress reports, and charter school is literally changing lives. It's stopping poverty. So you get a lot of flack, and yes, they have their flaws, but that's what they're literally doing. My son's school was on the news, and for something positive, 12 of their seniors are getting full scholarships. Now, how many black high schools do you know doing that? Right? But somebody had a dream and they made charter schools, and the charter schools are hard. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I didn't even think my son was gonna make it, but he's been doing very well. And it just shows you when you do challenge someone and you say, hey, you set up a standard, and they see that you serious, they have no choice but to oblige, So that's what it was with Coach Carter. He was like, y'all love basketball? I'm locking this gym. Y'all gotta come to the library. Y'all gotta go to class, sit in the front of the class. And I love that part of the movie. I love the whole movie, but I really love that part. And I wanted to talk about that to my educators, just in case if anybody's watching who's a teacher. The way you treat children is everything. Like for me, I carry myself very well, and I have a decent high self-esteem, because I was taught that I'm a somebody, and it's important to teach your children that. If you have a child that sits in the back of the class and they're being told that they're nothing, they'll never amount to nothing, they'll believe it, and then they start to act that way. A lot of children are afraid to ask questions in class because the teacher will shut them down. But for me, why did I turn out, not saying that I'm perfect, but my teachers picked on me constantly. I was tall, but I had to sit in the front of the class because I talked a lot, if you could tell. I was on a report card. Shout out to all the girls that on a report card said, talk too much. So, yeah, and as a, punishment, I had to sit in the front of the class, but the way my classrooms were always set up, nobody really sat in the back, right? And if you did, you would get a lot of attention. So my teachers really molded us for positive things, and we thank them. And that's the best part of the movie, when the tough guy was like, you believed in me, you changed my life, thank you. And I just couldn't help but to be like, oh, that is so sweet, because that's what it's about, changing lives. If you're not changing lives, what are you doing? So he took his job very seriously. He's like, you know what, I'm a coach, but I'm going to set the standard. He's like, when he was in Richmond 30 years prior, they had a standard. You had to have a certain GPA. And I always thought that was the criteria, but apparently not. But it's important to set a standard for the sports, because that's why the statistics are the way they are. Because the standard is, you could play ball and that's all you good for. You could sing, you could dance. But no, let these people know you have intelligence as well. So I'm all for it. Like with my son, I'll never forget, this was years ago, but my son was dancing and somebody was being very rude. I was at a cookout or something, and she was like, oh, these kids always dancing, but can he read? I said, yes, his reading level is actually above his grade level. Why are you worried? So people do associate with talent. If you're talented, you must be slow. No. And it's supposed to go hand in hand, because when they go out into the real world, Yeah, and that's important, because in college you have to maintain a GPA. You can't barely pass. So to let them barely pass in high school, you're preparing them to fail. And it's true. A lot of people get to college and it's like a shock to them. And they like, oh my God, I got to do this, I got to do that. But if you're already used to a discipline and doing work, it's not a complete shock. For me, my struggle was math remedials. And the way they set up that test is unfair. But the basics, the reading and the writing, a lot of people can't do that because they haven't been challenged in the schools that they went to. And it's true, a lot of people, they go to school, they're not challenged or prepared for college, and they drop out because they can't do the work. It's too hard for them because they didn't learn it. And that's unfortunate, So with Coach Carter, he's like, yo, I don't want you to be embarrassed when you get to college or out there in the real world. Let's prepare now. So that was like an excellent lesson. And all he asked was for a 2.3. A 2.3 is nothing. Like 2.3 is you're going to class, you're doing the work. And that's what he was saying. Like, keep skipping class. Why should you be skipping class and still be on the team? It's true. Even though my son doesn't do sports, but he's on a step team and a swim team. I guess the swim team is considered a sport. But yeah, you have to have a 3-point something to be on a team. Period. 2.3 is kind of low. So if you can't do 2.3, you shouldn't even be allowed. I totally agree with that. But he changed the trajectory. Like, it's true. Like, and again, I really didn't know that was going on. But then I had to remember when I was a para in the hood and you had kids that was failing and they were still in the basketball team. And I'm like, how are they on the basketball team and they failing? Like, why you like setting them up? I guess they felt like, okay, it's junior high. But even in the junior high level, you still got to have that standard. Because I know with my school, we had a standard. I didn't have sports, but we had other things going on. You couldn't be a part of the choir unless if you was passing your classes. You couldn't just be failing and things. Like, the fuck? Like, extracurricular activities is a privilege. Being a part of Christmas play, choir, whatever the fuck. Like, and trips too. I had an economics teacher and I had the privilege of meeting Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s son. The only people that was able to go on that trip was myself and other B average and A plus students. Everybody wasn't invited to that trip. So I knew from a very young age, like, being, having grades is important. Now, college is hard. I ain't going front. I graduated with a 2.5. But, junior high and high school, like, yeah, that's important. And now, if you're struggling, that's something totally different. You go to tutoring, you get the help you need. But all Coach Carter was doing was telling them to go to class. That's it. And then they show the improvement, B-. B- is not asking for much. Just go to class. And that's for college, that's for high school, public or private. Just go to class and you'll pass. Like, for the most part, do the homework, whatever. Show some type of effort. Show that you care, So, yeah, I just love that movie. For those of you who've never seen it, it's on Tubi and it's deeper than just basketball. And that's another part that I like. Like, I don't like basketball, but the way they play on Coach Carter, they kind of nasty. I'm like, okay, they got some skills. Like, okay. Like, they really are playing. Like, those of y'all who watch a lot of movies about sports, they don't really be playing. That's why, whatever. But Coach Carter, they got some skills. Like, okay, I'm surprised none of them got to the NBA, but, they got some skills. Arnez from 101 is in it. He plays Coach Carter's son. The guy from the Parkers, he played Kim's boyfriend. There's a few people, a few familiar faces. The lady from the mama from The Help, or the maid from The Help, she plays the mama. I love her character because she knew her son fucked up and she was like, please. And I feel like we've all been there as parents, like, yo, Well, even if your child didn't fuck up, it's like, I want to talk to you, you know. And, just being that mother and speaking up for your child. We've all been there, because you want the best for your child. So I love that scene when she's like, I understand that you kicked my son out. You said he was suspended. Let me tell you something. I need for him to be in basketball because I can't pay for college by myself. She just kept it real with him, and she's like, please. She's like, well, if he comes to me and apologizes, then I'll consider it. She's like, he in a car. So he finally came and humbled himself. That's right. And he apologized to the coach, and she's like, that's right. I don't want to hear nothing about you being disrespectful no more. So, it was just a dope movie. I remember when it came out, nobody really liked it. And it's like, I love it because it talks about a black man raising his son. No mention of the mother, so I guess he was a single dad. But the same way he loved on his son, he loved on all of those young men. And what people don't realize is you need more Coach Carters. You do. Without the Coach Carters in our urban communities, you don't have a community. You have to shape and be there for our black men. It's important for them to have a positive leader, whether if it's a coach, a teacher. And I thank God, for my village, not just my dad, but all the black men that have been in my son's life, that he could look up to them. And, your role is important. And that's what I wanted to say for my pre-Father's Day. No matter what role you play, I don't care if you're a coach, I don't care if you're a janitor, I don't care if you're a para, I don't care what your role is very important to black men. Don't let nobody tell you different. We need more Coach Carters. Happy Father's Day.